everyone. My name is Evie Lupine. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you all, and today we're going to talk about dominance and submission. In particular, what it means to be an active dom or sub, and how being one can be of critical importance to the long-term health and well-being of your relationship. So if you're looking for how to approach your dynamic in a way that is sustainable beyond planned scenes and gets better over time, you're in the right place. Just keep listening. So first of all, I want to give credit where credit is due. I've been revisiting some older books that I read at the start of my BDSM journey now that I have more experience. And one of those books that I have often recommended to newer female S-types is this one. It's Kacie Cunningham's Conquer Me, Girl-to-Girl Wisdom about fulfilling your submissive desires. And this came out in 2010. And the subtitle is not my favorite. It is more gender exclusive than I prefer to be in my own content, but the author at least points that out after the introduction, stating that they can only speak from their experience as a female S-type, which is, I guess, somewhat reasonable. And they do say that other folks may get something out of the book, but that she just simply doesn't know what it's like to be, for example, a male S-type. And in any case, besides the whole, she, her equals sub thing, there are some interesting tidbits in here that strike me differently now as someone who's been in the lifestyle for a decade. And one pair of chapters in particular really got my brain going. One on active dominance and one on active submission. And I'll be referencing sections of Kacie's book when I want to quote from her directly, but reading those sections overall just made me realize, this is something that I have not talked about before, but that I definitely should because it really matters. So here we are. So what does it mean to be an active dom or sub? Like, are most people being passive with their DS? And to put it bluntly, kinda, yeah, but it's not their fault that that's how it is. Most people who start doing power exchange begin from one of two places, and yes, I am being there's a two kinds of people person right now, but bear with me. A good chunk of people who start doing kink are going in with no knowledge at all. They are literally just winging it based on maybe like some fantasies or some adult content and maybe the plots of a couple of romance novels. And a lot of folks are also brought in by partners who are very excited about the idea, and even though they have no idea what they would enjoy or what they ought to be doing, they go for it anyway. And it isn't intuitive to them, but they're giving it their best shot to make their partner happy. And when you're trying to act out a fantasy experience in real life, you're not basing that on having seen how day-to-day DS actually works. You're thinking about the scenes and the high protocol nights and that kind of thing. You might be able to make something really hot happen for a couple of hours on a Friday night, but 24/7? From scratch, that's going to be very hard, and without adequate representation, of course, things are going to fall through the cracks. If you went based on what novels would tell you, subs are eternally kneeling, naked, and waiting for orders, and they never get tired or sore. Real life isn't like that. So on the one hand, you have people who are trying to make fantasies a reality with no real-world experience or any knowledge of or from the kink community. But then you also have people who do come in with knowledge of BDSM who end up in a similar place, unable to bridge the gaps between what they desire and what a day-to-day power exchange relationship looks like. The internet is replete with example contracts and protocol ideas and punishment lists. It's easy to look at all of that, believe you've done your research, and declare you are ready for DS now. This is something that I fell into when I was new in the scene. I'd read the blog articles that were out there at the time. I even had access to a local dungeon that had some education, but not really so much about power exchange. And I knew in my heart that I wanted to be submissive, so I thought, okay, we just, I guess, need like rules on a piece of paper, and that's like a contract, and off we go once we have that. None of the examples I had read up to that point had much more information beyond submission, looking like obeying whatever rules you had agreed to, and maybe adding on more rules and doing more intense scenes over time. That is how your relationship would go deeper, and it would be so inherently rewarding if you just did it right that, of course, it would basically be self-sustaining. Ha ha ha! That is not how that works. While a little more grounded than the total fantasy approach, it is still basically a fantasy, just one that's based on the ideal DS relationship per the community rather than per a romance novelist. It doesn't contend with the fact that you have to choose to make time for DS in your life. And so both approaches lead people to eventually look back and go, what happened to my relationship? Where's the DS part of this? Why don't I feel dominant? Why isn't this making me feel subby? I thought this is what I wanted. And people often conclude because of that DS is not for them. It isn't working, not because they weren't told the whole story, but because their brains aren't right for that sort of dynamic, or they think that they just need to add on. They need more rules and more structure and more punishments, like as though if you gave your partner 20 rules and not 10, that makes you feel 10 times more dominant or something. Which again, that's not how this works, if only it were that easy. So at this point, if you've already started making a DS relationship and it's not working out, there is one key thing you can do. This isn't even like an active dominance and submission thing. It kind of is in like a self-awareness sense. This is more of a basic troubleshooting technique. The BDSM equivalent of turning it off and turning it back on again, as it were. But what you do is you strip everything back. You tear off all the floorboards and you see what is left underneath. Get rid of all the rules, the punishments, everything, and pick together one or two things that are the most important that you know really fulfill you, that are not in question. It could be a certain rule. It could be a ritual that you want to keep sharing. It could be as basic as continuing to use titles and honorifics with each other. But go back to that solid base of what you know works for both of you. And then you start building out again, slowly but surely over time, not being afraid to toss aside what isn't serving you, even if you think you have to do it if you're kinky. Like, maybe you don't like titles. Maybe saying sir or ma'am is just not ever going to be your thing, and no matter how much you say it, always sounds just like cheesy and awkward and forced. That's fine. You can say your partner's name or a vanilla pet name with just as much reverence as you would sir or ma'am. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Just not letting expectations dictate what you do or how you do it, and trying as best you can to do only that which brings you and your partner genuine pleasure, rather than meeting external expectations of what you think DS has to look like. And so, we've done that. Now we get into active dominance and submission. Whether you have stripped back to the floorboards or you're just trying to get started on the right foot, I believe understanding active dominance and submission is critical to long-term success. And even if people don't call it by this term, I would wager that most DS relationships engage in this sort of behavior if they're going to be around for a while and if they're healthy. They just might not recognize that they're doing it because it's become natural to them. Kacie does not define active dominance and submission clearly in her book, so I'm going to try it. I consider active dominance to be an approach in which the D-type is behaving in an engaged, aware way, where rather than merely passively receiving acts of service or submission, they are consciously feeding back into the relationship and creating opportunities both for their dominance to be felt and for their submissive to submit. Active submission is the equal and opposite side of that coin. They are also engaged and aware, and rather than just passively, unconsciously following orders, they feed back into the relationship by offering up their submission and giving their dominant opportunities to express themselves. Passive or an active DS is created through a reliance on inertia. It happens when we act like DS is a set it and forget it kind of thing, that once the rules are in place and the contract is signed, everything else will just kind of go from that point onward. But it doesn't. And when the initial steam from that runs out, You have nothing left powering your relationship if you don't intentionally stoke that fire. And this might seem obvious, but clearly it's not, at least not in the sense of having a solution for it. Think about how many vanilla relationships you know where things eventually just kind of stagnate. What was once a beautiful, romantic dynamic becomes static, faded, and it's a shell of itself, where neither party's needs are being met, and neither party can really definitively say how that happened. It's not that they don't love each other anymore, that they don't want to be together. In fact, it is this desire to be together still and to get back to how things were that makes this stagnation so painful. Vanilla folk have so many more examples of how to live out their relationships long term. So if it can happen to them, why not us in our relationships? When we have scarcely any representation at all, let alone good representation we can use as a guide for how to live out our dynamics healthily and happily in the long term. I think for us kinky folk, one huge thing that leads to ending up in this place in relationships is that people are seldom taught or shown how to be dominant. And people assume, well, you're a dom, so you must have this internal drive that tells you how it's supposed to look or how to go about it. But that's not the case for, I would say, most people, especially if you've never been exposed to the kink community in real life before. And a passive dominant will happily let someone take their coat or allow their partner to cook their meals for them, but they just kind of take that energy. They don't toss it back. A good dominant will learn how to keep that energy flowing back and forth. And this, I would argue, is what the exchange part of power exchange is about. If you happen to like that terminology, the giving and receiving of active attention back and forth, rather than one side always giving and one side always absorbing. So how can you be an active dominant? As Kacie describes, quote, "Two of the things I asked for were for him to praise me when he noticed that I had done something according to our rules, and also for him to verbally remind me when he noticed that I had slipped." A great starting point is looking at what you already have in your dynamic and to see where you have opportunities to insert more of yourself. Remember, if you're dominant, your submissive probably wants more of you present in the dynamic. So reward them with that. Verbally check in about your rules. Ask for status updates, make notes when things don't go to plan, and offer praise and direct feedback. You can also incorporate this active engagement into your punishments too. Don't just randomly dole them out whenever you remember. Build regular weekly or monthly check-ins where you discuss in detail what happened since your last check-in. Give clear reasons for why you're doing what you're doing and couch it in the goals and values that you share. Like, I see that this week you weren't able to meet your water drinking requirements. We agree that taking care of your health was one of our top priorities in this relationship. As your dom, it's important to me that my toys are in good condition. So to help you with this, next week you won't be allowed soft drinks during the evening, and I will be actively checking in with you twice a day and bringing you water until you can prove you can handle this on your own. Understood? And doesn't that sound so much better than an S-type? Silently wondering if the rules still matter or if you notice something happening or not? Maintaining your agreed upon rules and punishments is one of the biggest things you can do. So do this. Make them an active thing. And phrasing something like I just did works well because it reaffirms your dynamic, in this case, owner and toy. It shows that you care for your partner, that you pay attention, and that you are invested in helping your partner succeed. Even if that means using privilege restrictions and some slightly embarrassing, I'll hold your hand through this type behavior to get that message across. But active dominance doesn't just live in rules and punishments. It can be anywhere in your relationship, anytime your DS is on. Act confident. Make eye contact. Make authoritative decisions. Ask your partner to kneel, to be your furniture, to lower their gaze, to wear certain clothing for you, or to wear nothing at all. Whatever makes sense for your dynamic. Call them your toy, your pet, your submissive. Don't forget those pet terms and use them in a way that reflects your roleplay flavor when speaking to them. And don't forget the power of physical presence either. hold them by the jaw, put both hands around their face, hold the back of the nape of their neck, put your arm across their shoulder, make them feel both controlled and cared for. Basically, negotiate your relationship so you have opportunities for these little teeny tiny micro DS moments throughout your day, even if all you do is cuddling naked on the couch. And big secret, this is one of the fun things that makes having a 24/7 relationship really rewarding. And this can help you sustain your relationship when you might not otherwise have the energy for a full-on scene. And in fact, it can help build your excitement for future play. It doesn't have to be super kinky either. Calmly and authoritatively tell your partner to get you tea or water, and that does the trick for a lot of people. And speaking of service, by the way, while it can be hot to roleplay being a self-important noble who treats the help like decor, that doesn't work for a lot of people all day, all the time. Even if you're not saying please and thank you, because some folks don't want that, you can still be engaged when you get service. Recognize their effort. Give specific directions. If your submissive crawls across the ground holding something in their mouth, don't just wave them away like, "Not right now, babe, I'm busy playing Fortnite," without making eye contact. Pause. Notice their effort. Even with just brief eye contact or a hand signal or something, keep a treat by your desk to give to them, like a single little mini M&M, okay? Give them directions on where to place an item or what to do with it. If you are frequently busy with games or phone calls or work or something, instead of just acting annoyed when they're bidding for attention, build in a way that you can signal, "I need a second," and find something for them to do that helps them feel more subby and not rejected by you. Being given a hand signal to wait, kneeling outside of a door until released, is way better than getting shooed away like an annoying stray cat. Another tool you can use is being curious about your submissive partner. Maybe this is just speaking from my own perspective, but a lot of S-types really crave being known in a deep way by their D-type. They want someone who is curious about them, who wants to know how their mind works. And knowing how their mind works can give you scene ideas and also help you know how to keep them motivated in serving you. Tell them to tell you about their dreams. Ask questions about their fantasies. Ask them randomly about whatever's on their mind. Ask them what they like about being submissive or what feeds them or why they like this or that kink or what they like most about your relationship together. Give them space to share their heart to you. They might not know the answers right away, but get that ball rolling. Show you care about their mind as much as you like their body and what they do for you. Encourage them by reminding them that this will please you and help make for better scenes that feed both of you. And that ultimately, vulnerability is what will bring your DS to a deeper, better place. And none of this has to be in person, by the way. Virtually all of this works just as well at a distance. You can just as easily check in over someone's lunch break and say, "Before you go to bed today, pet, I want you to describe why you like being of service to me." You could also make a photo request or ask them to wear a specific type of clothing for you during the day or give them a mantra to repeat to themselves while they take the bus or drive home from work. I understand that this can be difficult to start doing, whether it's remote or in person, and especially that can be the case if you haven't ever had the opportunity to practice anything like this before. It's going to feel different, and that's okay. Ask your sub for feedback. Tell them you want to hear how what you do makes them feel. Once you try it a few times and see the positive results and hear it from the horse's or the pony girl's mouth, it will slowly get easier and it will feel more natural to ask for that glass of water or to tell your partner to kneel for you. Practice makes perfect for dominance as much as submissives. And wanting reassurance does not make you any less dominant. The easiest place to start is just by doing something small and super time limited, like, "Hey, this Saturday afternoon, I want to practice being a little more dominant. How would you feel about me giving you orders within the scope of our negotiations? You can say no to anything in the moment, but I just want to see how it feels to do more than just scenes and punishments." And then you can literally just ask for like one or two things over the course of 6 hours. That's it. And if it works, You can do it more. You can do it a second time. You can follow up on that Sunday. And isn't that so much less scary than trying to change everything suddenly overnight? And if you have a new relationship, you can negotiate for these sort of micro-dominance acts to be okay from the get-go if you like, and then slowly build them up as you do with every other aspect of your relationship. Again, DS doesn't just exist in scenes and in these like elaborate role-play scenarios. It's these little teeny tiny moments that can really make a difference. But then, it's also not just about what doms do. There's also active submission, because subs can also fall asleep at the wheel as well. Rather than not knowing how to respond to bids for DS, though, or not knowing how to receive service, what I see S-types doing wrong here is more like just turning their brains off. And yes, a lot of S-types like getting to put their brain on coast for a bit, but I'm not talking about like, oh my gosh, yeah, I don't have to think about work for a couple hours, headspace type stuff. I mean, like, they have a bunch of rules, but they're just doing them by rote. Their body is doing all the right things, but neither their heart nor their head is in it. They aren't present in their submission. It's just a paint by numbers thing that they're still doing for some reason. Again, it's the inertia thing. And there is a difference between conscious behavior modification, which can be a desirable end state, and acting out submission without really living it. You don't want submission to feel like driving your car to the office in the morning where you barely remember the 45-minute drive because your head was somewhere else the whole time. The other issue, which is closely related, is that some S-types just sort of act like jellyfish. They think that being an S-type means that they just kind of will go with the flow to the point that they literally never initiate anything or ask for anything or share anything, and they never offer any ideas. Scene designs, requests for service, new rules, all of that 100% in the hands of the dominant. They might expect a mind reader, or they might believe that it would be out of place to offer any of that stuff, so they don't, even though they kind of want to. And let me tell you, it is okay to ask for stuff. It is okay to offer ideas respectfully. And when you're in doubt, you should be able to ask. Instead of just quietly hoping that one day your dom will, dom you, give them opportunities to dominate you. Kneel for them and say, is there anything that I can do to please you right now? And when I tell you this works, folks, I mean it. Some of my best relationship changes and conversations have come from me just giving my D-type space to say what they want from me in an open way. And sometimes doms are fighting a little bit of insecurity or shame, or they don't really know what to ask for. And so hearing from you directly that you want to serve opens that door for them. And when you follow orders, do so with mindful awareness. Focus on the sensations you're feeling as you fold towels, for example. How do the edges feel? What is the smell of the detergent like? Feel the warmth left over from the dryer, and be grateful. Remind yourself of how lucky you are to serve a partner who cares about you and sees your inner nature and wants to nurture it. Think about how you can just go the extra mile sometimes. How you would do things differently if you really wanted to impress someone. Rather than rushing through that towel folding so you can get back to whatever you were doing on your phone, can you make those edges extra neat? Can you make sure they all get stacked in an orderly way? You can apply this logic to nearly any task too, which makes it easy to use anywhere, anytime. And just like how S-types want to be known, D-types want to be understood too. And yes, I am telling you to ruin that dominant mystique you may like so much, but big secret, it was going to be ruined one way or the other, so it might as well be ruined on both of your terms. Ask your dominant about what would help them the most, what drew them to dominance, what they like about your relationship, what they want to see more of. Tell them you want to know how to serve and please them better. If they see your curiosity stems from wanting to grow the relationship, they may start to open up to you. And finally, there is the role you play in maintaining structure. I don't mean listening to the rules and following them, though that's something that you should always be doing. And if they aren't working, you should be able to have an adult conversation where you tell your partner, Hey, can we revisit this thing? I don't think this is working the way that we both wanted it to. And if you can, request an alternate idea that you think might work better in its place. But this also means checking in with your partner as well. Instead of just getting silently resentful that they didn't notice the towels, you can gently remind your partner in an appropriate way to your dynamic, Master, I folded the towels as you requested, and I really took my time with them today. I hope it pleases you. Give them an opportunity to praise you and recognize your efforts. Take the initiative to check in about your regular rules. If you are supposed to have your pill taking monitored, snap a picture when the pill box is empty and say, your submissive is refilling her pills today because she knows that it is her job to stay healthy for you and build good habits. Reaffirm that you understand the whys behind your rules and your shared values. But the same goes when you break a rule as well, which can suck. What about when you mess up and forget something? Don't hide it. Say, your pet knows that they're supposed to be in bed by midnight. She must confess that they were really excited about catching up with an old friend and accidentally stayed up too late and didn't get into bed until almost 2 a.m. Let your D-type do their part in offering discipline and punishment as required, rather than concealing your behavior and slowly eroding the relationship from the inside. So basically, in summary, regardless of whether you're an S-type or a D-type, being active means taking advantage of small windows of opportunity to act out the role you have in your relationship. It means staying aware in the present moment, practicing gratitude, and looking for chances to help your partner fulfill their duties too. We don't need elaborate scenes or big dungeons to be dominant or submissive. We just need a little curiosity, advanced negotiation, and to seize opportunities when they arise. Doing this is easier than it sounds. You can start by just asking your partner, what do I do that makes you feel more submissive? Or more dominant for that matter, depending on what side of the equation you're on and what side of the equation your partner is on. Then based on that, you can negotiate how to be able to weave those things into your day-to-day life and or some of the suggestions that I talked about earlier. And then you just do them. It's as simple and as complicated as that. And I really think that just being able to stay mindfully aware in your relationship makes such a huge difference. And when we turn our brains off all the time, it's so much harder to notice what's working about a relationship and what's not. And you can get away with that to a certain extent in a vanilla relationship, but when it comes to kink, if we're not consciously aware of what we're doing, it can be so difficult to figure out, is it the DS itself? Is it something my partner is doing? Is it something that I'm doing? Is it the rule? Is it how we're doing punishments? Is it how we talk to each other? And so by being present as you go about your DS, as you notice moments where you can infuse little bits of that throughout your day and when you're around each other, it'll just make it so much easier to not only sustain things, but also to identify, this is the thing that's not working and here's what we need to fix. And that's basically what I wanted to say about active dominance and submission. It is something that I think for a lot of people is going to sound very obvious, and it's doesn't everyone do that? But clearly they don't, because if it was that obvious, people would not be struggling with this, and especially I think D-type struggle with knowing how and when it's okay to insert little bits of dominance moment to moment. And that's why we negotiate for things like this. So it's really clear and really obvious that when the opportunity presents itself, yes, you can ask for kneeling or whatever thing you'd like to do. And just build around that, basically. Anyways, I'm rambling. Thank you all so much for listening to this video and taking time out of your day to watch me. And if you like what I do and you've not already, you can go ahead and subscribe. I make videos every week talking about kink, BDSM, dating, relationships, polyamory, LGBTQ issues, pop culture stuff, and so much more. And if you really like what I do, you can go over to my Patreon. Link to that will be down below. If you do already support me there, thank you so much. It means the absolute world to me. And until I see you all next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.